For this presentation, I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about how teachers can incorporate the 4 learning styles in their classroom. These 4 learning styles being visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and reading and writing. The first one is visual, and this is actually one of my favorite learning styles. This is because I am a visual learner. And what this means is that when you're teaching, some students can learn really well when they visually see it. Like for me, if I hear a teacher lecturing, I sometimes tend to tune it out, but when I see it on the board, it tends to stick in my brain more. So a good strategy for a teacher to do is to have diagrams on the board so that their students can see what they're teaching, and it can just help someone that's a visual learner understand the material better. Next is auditory. And a good recommendation for a teacher is to have the students that struggle with hearing, or just maybe that just mess around. If you have students that mess around in the back of the class, or they're just not really paying attention, to move them up to the front so that they can really hear well what you're saying and what you're teaching, and that they just take in everything that you're saying. I also think it's really important to have your students read and explain the ideas out loud to you and their classmates. I feel like a lot of kids can benefit when they talk amongst each other. They can benefit from themselves and from their classmates as well. And then the next one is kinesthetic. One of my favorite things I remember in elementary school is role playing. I remember my 3rd grade teacher, we were doing, I think it was our animal reports, but it was really neat because each corner of the classroom had like a desert or the jungle, and we would role play like our animals in each corner of the classroom. So I think like kind of being hands-on, students learn that way. So including role play can be a huge plus in your classroom and can really help students learn. Another thing is having exercise throughout the day. I think it's really important to always keep your students moving. They need breaks too, so exercise is a great break for them. And the last bullet point I have is have your students take notes. So for me, I can't just read something and move on. I have to take notes, or I have to highlight or annotate my notes in order for it to stick in my head. So the last strategy is learning styles is reading and writing. And to help with this learning strategy, you can have your students read aloud. Sometimes when you read aloud, it kind of sticks better to you rather than reading silently. I know when I read silently, I kind of tune out and get off track. Another thing is when they write, using their imagination is huge. I used to not like writing, but once I had my 2nd grade teacher, Mrs. Hodge, she was huge on imagination. And I remember after she kind of introduced us to imagination, I was able to write so many different stories just by using my imagination. And I think it really just gets kids thinking and excited to write about whatever they're learning. But yeah, these are the 4 different types of learning strategies, and I chose this for my presentation because I think it's really important as current teachers or future teachers to know that not all students are visual learners, or not all students are kinesthetic learners, but you're going to have a mix of visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic learners in your classroom, and it's important as current and future teachers to know how to meet the needs of all these different types of learners in your classroom so that all your students can be successful.